Howdy, 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 my name is Nachi Sasuke. Welcome back to Let's Read the SCP Foundation Wiki. This is going to be the last episode for a week, because next week's going to be all Homestucks, and then I'll go back to alternating like I've been doing. So today we're going to be starting with the Water Nymph, who is safe, and there's no picture. Okay, subject is held in a watertight isolation room, outfitted with a specialized climate control equipment. An ornate fountain filled with water stands in the center of the enclosure. Maintenance personnel are required to wear NBC suits while inside the containment area and must spend 10 minutes in a special drying room after exiting. In the event of a breach, the surrounding area should be evacuated and the enclosure flushed with liquid nitrogen. The fountain's chemical levels and volume are to be monitored and maintained. Spring water from blank should be used, as 54 is highly sensitive to hydrological conditions. 54 has developed a mistrust for human males during its confinement, thus assignment of female personnel is recommended. Description: out of the water, the subject most often appears as a female humanoid with a mean volume of 90 liters comprised entirely of water. Other forms are possible, commonly geometric shapes. When it enters a body of water, it becomes indistinguishable from its surroundings. The subject must periodically return to a body of water in order to maintain its volume due to evaporation. Initially found in blank, which clicking on does nothing, it was moved to Site 8 for further study. Subject was initially curious about Foundation personnel and seemed to enjoy interacting with maintenance staff and researchers and mimicking their forms. After a number of weeks, the creature apparently felt comfortable enough to remain out of water during the routine monitoring, though it retreated when attempts were made to study its composition. 54 is apparently composed of normal water with no detectable differences compared to ordinary spring water from the same source. No thermal, electromagnetic, biological, or other phenomenon has ever been detected in its body that would suggest how it animates. Water lost by 54 to evaporation exhibits no special properties when condensed. Experiments with 54 were halted following data expunged, 2 researchers injured. After this incident, containment protocols were updated. Subject thereafter exhibited signs of mistrust and aggression around male personnel, which made up the majority of the original research staff. Subject reclassified Euclid. Okay, so it's not even safe anymore. Now it's Euclid because it did something to guys for some reason. Partial transcripts. Audio Journal 54A. Water loss experiment. Subject becomes withdrawn and inactive when denied access to water. Its compact shape is theorized to reduce surface area exposed to evaporation. For the first few days, it moved eagerly to greet anyone entering its enclosure and behaved excitedly. Possibly indicates an understanding by the subject that we control its access to water supplies. Subject ceased its behavior yesterday, presumably in recognition that no help was forthcoming. Temperature extremes testing. We got authorization to attempt sub-zero testing this morning. The subject became lethargic as the temperature fell and froze completely after blank. Spectroscopy of the ice crystal revealed no abnormalities. Ice chips were collected for study. This is in stark contrast to its behavior in the 95-degree test, when it became aggressive and attempted to escape its enclosure. We've submitted a work order to combine the climate control equipment with the subject's standard enclosure, as it has begun to resist efforts to transport it to experimental chambers with increasingly desperate behavior. Memory and conditioning evaluation. Subject has proven unexpectedly adept at navigating complex mazes and solving puzzles. Dr. Seskel has finally overcome the problem of motivating the subject by the application of electrical shocks and/or silica desiccants. He joked that we should have it trained to fetch in no time, and after observing his methods, I think he might be right. Note: subject to be allowed a 48-hour recuperation period. It seemed to be lagging in its progress at the end of the week's experiments. Acid/base incorporation experiment. Last log entry. I'm starting with an 0.5 HCl solution. I have no idea what will happen, but if this thing incorporates homeostatic mechanisms like I suspect, then we should get some insight into how it maintains its form. Temperature in the enclosure has been lowered to 278 K to help control 54's increasingly erratic behavior. Addendum 54B. After 5 years with no incidents, subject rating has been downgraded to safe on recommendation of Dr. Blank. Experiments will resume under the auspices of Biology Unit E7. Caution should still be exercised when interacting with the subject. So apparently something happened regarding men that was so bad it got upgraded to Euclid, and then 5 years later brought back down to safe as long as it stays away from dudes. Okay, unknown is Keter class. The object is kept within a 5x5 by 2.5 meters square room constructed of cement, 50 centimeters in thickness, with a Faraday cage surrounding the cement walls. Access is via a heavy containment door measuring 2 by 2.5 meters constructed on bearings to ensure door closes and locks automatically unless held open deliberately. Security guards are not to be posted outside 55's room. It is further advised that all personnel maintaining or studying other SCP objects in the vicinity try to maintain a distance of at least 50 meters from the geometric center of the room as long as this is reasonably practical. Description: 55 is a self-keeping secret or anti-meme. Meme meaning idea, not internet memes. Information about 55's physical appearance as well as its nature, behavior, and origins is self-classifying. To clarify, how Site-19 originally acquired 55 is unknown. When 55 was obtained and by whom is unknown. 55's physical appearance is unknown. It is not indescribable or invisible. Individuals are perfectly capable of entering 55's container and observing it, taking mental or written notes, making sketches, taking photographs, or even making audio-video recordings. An extensive log of such observations is on file. However, information about 55's physical appearance leaks out of a human mind soon after such observation. Individuals tasked with describing 55 afterwards find their minds wandering and lose interest in the task. Individuals tasked with sketching a copy or of a photograph of 55 are unable to remember what the photograph looks like. As are researchers overseeing these tests, security personnel who have observed 55 via closed-circuit television cameras emerge after a full shift exhausted and effectively amnesiac about the events of the previous hours. Who authorized the construction of 55's containment room, why it was constructed in this way, or what the purpose of the described containment procedures may be are all unknown. Despite 55's container being easily accessible, all personnel at Site-19 claim no knowledge of 55's existence when challenged. All of these facts are periodically rediscovered, usually by chance readers of this file, causing a great deal of alarm. This state of concern lasts minutes at most before the matter is simply forgotten about. A great deal of scientific data has been recorded from 55 but cannot be studied. At least one attempt has been made to destroy 55, or possibly move it from containment at Site-19 to another site, meeting failure for reasons unknown. 55 may present a major physical threat and indeed may have killed many hundreds of personnel, and we would not know it. Certainly it presents a giant memetic/mental threat, hence its Keter classification. Document 55-1, an analysis of 55. The author puts forward the hypothesis that 55 was never formally acquired by blank blank, and is in fact an autonomous or remotely controlled agent, inserted at Site-19 by an unidentified third party for one or all of the following purposes. To silently observe or interfere with activities at Site-19, activities at other SCP locations, activity of humanity worldwide, other SCP objects, or blank. No action to counter any of these potential threats is suggested or indeed theoretically possible. Addendum A. Hey, if this thing really is an anti-meme, why doesn't the fact that it's an anti-meme get wiped? We must be wrong about that somehow. Wait a minute. What if we were to keep notes about what it isn't? Will we remember those? Bartholomew Hughes, NSA. Document 55-2, report of Dr. John Marashek. Survey Team 1955-127-BXE was successfully able to enter 55's container and ascertain the appearance and, to some degree, the nature of the object. Notes were taken according to the project methodology, see blank, after which the container was sealed again. Excerpt from a transcript of personal debriefing follows. Okay, I'm going to need to ask you some questions about number 55 now. Number what? SCP Object 55, the object you just examined? I don't know what you're talking about. I don't think we have a 55. Okay then, blank. I'd like you to tell me what you've been doing for the past 2 hours. What? I don't know. Okay, then do you remember that we all agreed that it wasn't spherical? Oh, right, it isn't round at all. Object 55 isn't round. So you remember it now. Well, no, I mean, I don't know what it is, but I know there is one. It's something you can't remember and it's not a sphere. Wait a minute, what's not a sphere? Object 55. Object what? Doc, do you remember agreeing that something wasn't shaped like a sphere? Oh, right! It appears possible that to remember what 55 is not, negations a fact, and to repeatedly deduce its existence from these memories. Personnel involved in Survey 1955-127-BXE reported moderate levels of disorientation and psychological trauma associated with cycles of repeated memory and forgetfulness of 55. However, no long-term behavioral or health problems were observed, and psych assessments of survey personnel showed consistent reports of this distress fading over time. Recommendations. It may be worthwhile to post at least one staff member capable of remembering the existence of 55 to each critical site. but it sounds like there isn't anyone who can do that, so now it's time to read about a beautiful person. Euclid. 56 is to be kept in a room of its choosing, with whatever furnishing it expresses desire for. Level 1 personnel and above may interact with 56 at any time they choose, for a time length not exceeding 2 hours. The subject is to be guarded by a minimum of 3 security staff at all times, with shift changes every 4 hours. Each guard is to be armed with a non-lethal tranquilizer of pistols, loaded with no less than 1,500 microliters of... that. Any irregularities in personnel and staff developed by extended exposure to 56 will result in psychological examination and relocation to site, data expunged. I can only assume this means dead. So, the subject is to be allowed access to anything it desires with the exception of weapons, communication devices, an internet connection, and other SCP objects. It may wander in research sector blank as it wills, but never allow access to floors with exits. In the event of an emergency, or 56 becomes violent, it is to be subdued and contained within its room if possible. At no time shall personnel attempt to harm 56. See Addendum 2B. 56 is a being of variable size, gender, and appearance, with changes in response to the environment around it, especially in regards to living and sentient beings. Its most common form is a handsome man in his middle 20s, dressed in a garb similar appearance to that of personnel guarding it, but of a higher quality and aesthetic value. However, it has been recorded as taking these forms: a large, well-groomed Labrador Retriever when exposed to Dr. Blank's dog, a woman of similar appearance to famous actress Scarlett Johansson when passing by a group of younger female staff, a female doctor in a white lab coat when speaking with various researchers. When asked to take an IQ test, the subject scored nearly 30 points higher than the highest scoring researcher available. A male bodybuilder who was able to lift nearly 250 kilograms twice on a bench press machine in the sector's gym. This was 30 kilograms heavier than the strongest security guard's maximum at the time. A couch of extremely pleasing aesthetic value when left alone in the subject's room. These changes will generally occur the moment all people in the area lose focus on the object, or subject, which occurs immediately upon exposure to a new object or person, see Addendum 3. Filming these changes has proven inconsequential, as any viewing the tapes or feeds suffer the same momentary confusion. That is written really weird. That wasn't just me reading it weird, it's just written weird. Clothing will also change during this time, though 56 has yet to manifest any sort of tools or weapons. It is theoretically impossible to view 56's original or natural form. When left in an empty concrete cell and under closed-loop video surveillance, it took on the form of a higher quality camera and appeared to monitor the camera watching it. Further attempts to yield its natural form discovered that, when alone, it had no readable life signs including body temperature, heartbeat, or weight. It is assumed by researchers that it could not exist without any sort of perception. Personnel in contact with the subject often report feeling jealous or unsatisfied, yet will often give a great deal of both positive and negative attention to 56, which can be predicted by their personality types. Security staff will often claim that they wish to follow the subject's commands even if they dislike it or its current form, while researchers in extended contact with it will often try to argue and verbally abuse it, which usually results in the subject sending them out in shame. 56 is quite capable of speech and can apparently communicate in any language, verbal or not, and has shown fluency in over 200 dialects, including those invented by cryptographers and hobbyists. So I guess that means it can speak Klingon? It frequently treats the staff around it with disdain, though is generally willing to do whatever is asked of it, so long as the inquiring does so in a submissive way. It expresses interest in magazines, fashions, automobiles, theoretical science, sports, and a multitude of other subjects, usually expressing greater knowledge and understanding of the topic than the person communicating with it. Personnel will generally become angry, disenchanted, or disgusted with 56 after speaking with it for great lengths of time, though they will try to speak with it again if possible. When questioned about other SCPs, it showed fear and occasionally hatred and refused to speak about any of them, even objects classified as safe. Additional, subject was found to be working for the clothing design company Redacted after an unusual number of homicides, suicides, and mental breakdowns of other models when working around 56. When Class E personnel attempted to detain it, their mannerisms provoked it to change into what appeared to be the form of data expunged, resulting in the deaths of 17 agents and 10 civilians. The incident was covered up by claiming an employee suffering from a psychopathy brought a firearm to work and attacked the other workers. Addendum. Those with level 4 or above clearance refer to document 956-0, and that document is as such. Hey, listen up, whatever you are. You're under arrest for murder. No, go away. Clicking noises. Agent has drawn his weapon. You need to come with us right now. You don't want to do that, you stupid little man. Expressions of surprise, presumably from onlookers. The fuck? It looks just like data expunged. Gunshots and screaming. Tape ends. I guess it turned into some sort of gun? See document 956-1. 956-1. Behavioral testing. Sorry. Okay. Testing procedures. Data expunged. Results. 1 Class D personnel armed with knife, intent to harm subject. Subject appeared as a lean, fit man of approximately 20 years of age. Subject proceeded to disarm and kill personnel. Female Class D personnel bearing a bottle of fine wine, intent to offer subject gift. Subject appeared as a beautiful woman, accepted the gift, and upon tasting, spit it back in the personnel's face before waving her away. Class D personnel, both male and female, carrying nothing and intending nothing. Subject appeared as a beautiful woman in a well-tailored business suit. Examined both personnel, then dismissed them. 10 Class D personnel, all male, intending and carrying nothing. Appeared as a beautiful woman dressed in a low-cut red dress. After approximately 10 minutes, all personnel began showing signs of irritation, and 5 minutes later broke out in fighting. Subject waved them away after watching them for 7 minutes. 1 female level 4 personnel voted to be best-looking woman on facility. Carried nothing, intending nothing. Subject appeared as an extremely aesthetically pleasing woman and displayed a large lexicon and understanding of management skills. Spoke to personnel for nearly 90 minutes until personnel became infuriated and left the room. Addendum 3. Note from Dr. Keeneth. I was recently informed that 56 has repeatedly requested access to the internet. When I asked 56 about this, it told me that we were unable to provide it with enough sycophants and that it wanted the whole world to know its face. Needless to say, its request was denied. Okay, so 56 is a jackass. 57 is the daily grind. Which is safe. I wonder what it is. Well, it has an incident report, so if there's an incident report, that doesn't strike me as safe. Site 57 has been constructed to facilitate 57 as relocation is not feasible. It is highly improbable that any outside knowledge of the artifact exists based on circumstances of its discovery, and thus security is of minimal concern. No containment procedures are required other than the prevention of unauthorized access. All research will be delegated to Dr. Lewis and Dr. Walston until further specified. Due to the irretrievability of those placed inside 57, access will be granted with the approval of no fewer than 2 members of O5. Description: 57 is a subterranean chamber with an approximate cylindrical height of 3 meters and diameter of 18 meters. Artifact is comprised of impenetrable slate-colored stone. Inside the chamber are dozens of parallelepiped monoliths. The hell? What is a parallelepiped? A solid body of which each face is a parallelogram. I was not expecting that to actually bring up anything. Extending from the floor to ceiling that slide in various directions while 57 is active. It was discovered several meters below blank on blank during the construction of a secure containment enclosure for SCP blank. So consequently, SCP blank was assigned an alternate location at Site blank. An entrance to the chamber is located on the northeast side. When a human enters, the door shuts and the walls inside the chamber move in such a way as to require the subject's constant attention to maintain a safe course through the artifact. The monoliths slowly open and close until the subject either surrenders or exhausts themselves, at which time 57 crushes them and reverts to its original inactive state after a period of approximately 20 seconds. This process lasts only as long as the subject inside 57 is alive and has proven to take days. Extended testing proposals to gauge the limits of the artifact have been discouraged. All tests on animals, machines, and cadavers have proven futile. Only a living, breathing human is able to initiate this process upon entering 57. So, incident report. During the excavation of the artifact, a worker employed by the Foundation for the unearthing process entered the chamber without permission at roughly 12:57 AM on blank blank blank. Upon entering the artifact, the door shut and a dull rumble began to emanate from the chamber. Standard lockdown procedure was initiated and all personnel in the vicinity were evacuated. A remote-operated vehicle, RAV, was deployed in order to safely determine the cause of the event and to gauge any possible threat of 57. Aside from the rumbling noises produced during the event, no anomalous effects outside the artifact were observed. At 4:32 AM of the following day, 57 suddenly shut down and returned to its original state as the door shifted back into its open position. At 5:32 a.m., the area was declared safe and the excavation process was completed without further incident. The worker in question was never recovered. Okay, experiment log. Experiment 57-1. A controlled experiment for the purpose of exploring the interior of 57 was requested by Dr. Lewis and Walston on blank blank blank, and approved shortly thereafter by O5 Council. D-1021 was equipped with a radio to be able to send and receive transmissions to and from the doctors upon entering the chamber. Upon entering the chamber, the artifact behaved as expected, with the door abruptly shutting behind D-1021. The following is a transcript of the communication between Dr. Lewis, Dr. Walston, and D-1021. Hey, you didn't tell me the door would close. Can you open it again? This place gives me the heebie-jeebies. Negative. Please proceed as advised and describe your surroundings. Okay. Well, there are a bunch of stone columns in here and they keep rearranging their positions. D-1021, what is your status? Damn columns snuck up on me. They're moving around, arranging themselves so that... What is it? The columns behind me are closing up. The ones ahead of me are spreading out. I don't like this. I can't see the door anymore. Stay calm. Move with the columns and you'll be fine. If I stand still, they'll crush me. I have to keep moving or they'll crush me. 17 seconds of silence. How long am I going to be in here? It'll be over soon. You're doing fine. Just keep walking or keep moving. But what if I'm trapped in here? I'm trapped. They're gonna crush me. And hey, listen. Get a hold of yourself. The columns will eventually lead you to an exit. Please relax and continue. So there's an exit? Thank God, I was scared there for a second that I'd never... Superfluous dialogue expunged. Yep, keep it up, and you'll be right as rain. You're doing a great job. You'll have no trouble making parole once this is over. The experiment continues without incident for another 41 minutes. At this point, D-1021 becomes noticeably distressed again. I saw how big this place is from the outside. Am I going in a circle? Negative. Continue to proceed through the opening columns. You should find the exit. There is no fucking exit! You bastard sons of bitches trapped me in here. Now I'm fucking trapped! You are not trapped, D-1021. Continue to the exit or you will be forced to... Forced to what? There's nothing you can do to me. I'm gonna fucking die. I'm gonna die. D-1021. Panicking will only exacerbate your situation. Focus. D-1021 breaks into tears. He continues to cry for the next 2 hours as he makes his way through the columns and does not reply to any questions. Eventually, the crying ceases. So, this is it. I'm gonna die. I guess I'll just stop and close my eyes. Maybe it won't be so bad. I can't. Continues to repeat this for several minutes. Eventually, he trails off and falls silent. D-1021? D-1021, proceed through the room as advised. D-1021's gentle sobbing abruptly cuts off. Brief, loud cracking and snapping sounds are heard before the transmission is lost. Strangely, D-1021 did not report any sightings of the remains of the excavation worker lost in Event 57-1. Accordingly, no efforts were made for the recovery of their remains. As a result of this inconclusive data, reclassification of 57 to Euclid is pending. Yeah, I'd say that's not safe, like, at all. Okay, so, the daily grind. Ha ha! Okay. So next up is the Heart of Darkness, which is Keter. 58 is to be kept in isolation by a 5x5x5 meter contained chamber at all times. Walls are to be constructed of 3 meter, 10 feet, of reinforced heat-resistant steel backed by the further 10 meters of reinforced concrete. 58 is to be fed a live cow every 3 days. Maintenance is to be conducted every 60 minutes, while 58 is dormant, and every 15 minutes while it's active. Under no circumstances is 58 to be allowed out of its containment area. It is to be audio recorded at all times. No personnel are to listen to it for more than 30 minutes at a time. In case of escape, facility is to be considered compromised and detonation of on-site nuclear weaponry is to commence. To date, 58 has been responsible for the death of at least 149 Class D personnel and 14 agents at the current site. 58 resembles a cow heart, with at least 4 arthropod-like legs used primarily for movement, and 4 tentacles of adjustable length, covered with razor-sharp spines. It has a single sharp stinger on its rear, where the hole for the superior vena cava would be in a typical organ. 58's tentacles can be whipped to a distance of 10.5 feet at speeds in excess of 200 miles per hour. 58 is extremely hostile and will use every opportunity afforded to it to inflict damage on its surroundings. 58 has been shown to be highly resilient to trauma and should be approached with caution even when apparently incapacitated. 58 is highly mobile and capable of rapid movement on both horizontal and vertical surfaces. It has been recorded reaching a speed of approximately 55 miles per hour in short bursts covering distance up to 200 meters, and has the ability to accelerate from 0 to 55 in less than 2 seconds. It has been shown to use its tentacles for increased leverage and stability, as well as utilizing them to pull itself to other surfaces at high speeds. It speaks in a human voice, though no method of producing sound has been observed in its physiology. It speaks with vocal tone and accent of an elderly British male with a slight lisp and deep voice. It talks constantly regardless of conditions. Even when attacking, voice and pace of speech are unchanged. The speech of 58 lacks any detectable correlation to events, persons, or exterior locations involved with 58. See transcript of interview 58-4. I don't think I want to read it, but I'm gonna. 58 was first encountered at Site Blank as it came out of Blank. 58 was extremely hostile and appeared to be very agitated. Attacked Site Blank, which resulted in the death of Blank faculty and Blank agents. Went on to attack the nearby town of Blank, resulting in the deaths of over Blank citizens and the destruction of 70% of the surrounding buildings. Post-breach analysis determined a majority of the deaths are attributable to fire and fire-related injuries resulting from a wide spread of stinger fluid by 58 from a large structure. This is also blamed for a majority of structural damage. Blank by 58 accounts for only 8% of the total deaths, with the major evidence data expunged. 58 was finally contained after being crushed and incapacitated by a large amount of masonry from a building that had collapsed on top of it. It was then extracted and transported to Blank by agents and MTF teams. 58 was contained at Blank for 3 weeks, during which it made minimal attempts to move, attributed both to physical damage and bloating from Blank during the initial breach incident. Testing during this period was limited, with 58 still maintaining a high threat level even in its impaired state. 58 breached containment on Blank during an attempted transfer to SCP containment site, causing multiple deaths and injuries. 58 was eventually incapacitated by Agent Blank, who managed to subdue 58 by running it over with an M1 tank, pinning it beneath the armored vehicle. 58 was subsequently secured and transported to Armed Biocontainment Area 14. And here's that interview that I don't want to read. I had a dream of the queen wonders that lived inside the hearts of love and silent treatment of all the elderly that I knew were once whole. What is your name? I seek the revelations of all that the holy told to the unwise in the dreams of cold embers and sunlight that fade across lakes of black blood, and snakes that eat the loaves of children from lamb trees in autumn. What is your name? Endless suffering is the woe of ignorant men who never lack to seek the depth of their own hearts, and only see the wealth of a poor world suffering to flay its own back in knife wounds of silver and brutal gladness. Where are you from? The nightmare is a dream to the nameless slug that wanders across minefield in the remains of deer and kings. This is some creepy ass D67 cuts off into screaming. Nightshade is shadow and all honest blinks that sort through the bile of newborn plagues. Instant warmth is a mother's milk and dreams before anything was ever evil, continues screaming. Let him go! In seconds the sun is beating like drums and all hearts eat the ear of noise. Screaming is cut short abruptly. The sensual violence of lust is all the assurance you will ever need to know the worth of life. Yeah, that, it is a cow heart with bladed tentacles, fire stinger poison, and it speaks like an old British man. Always. And they were only able to catch it by parking a tank on top of it. Shit, man. Okay, so, radioactive mineral. Keter. Ooh, pictures. I'm glad there were not pictures of the other thing. The Heart of Darkness doesn't need pictures. I'm picturing it like that one random heart from the Teen Titans cartoon, except much, much more terrifying. I'm glad I'm reading this in the middle of the afternoon instead of nighttime. So, A single specimen of 59 is kept at Site 11B inside of graded Z laminate shielding box composed of depleted uranium, tantalum, tin, steel, copper, and aluminum. Surrounding 59's containment box is 7x7x7 meter area sealed as a level 4 biohazard area and surrounded by 3 centimeters of lead shielding. That doesn't seem like a lot. Well, I don't know. Yeah, that doesn't seem like a lot. This area is to be sprayed daily with a solution of methyl isothiocyanate to prevent overgrowth of SCP-59-1. Personnel entering 59 affected area are cautioned to wear appropriate biohazard protection, as well as Type K-59B radiation shielding. They are to remain in the area for no less than 15 minutes as the radiation shielding is only partially effective. 59-1 infestations found in the wild should be contained by removing 59 specimen responsible and incineration of all observed 59-1. Large underground infestations are best neutralized by fuel-air thermobaric explosives. Additional specimens of 59 are not needed for experimentation and should be transported to Site 11B for incineration by plasma arc at 10,000 degrees K. 59 is a radioactive mineral of unknown origin, superficially resembling scheelite. A component of 59 is believed to originate in an alternate universe and to be responsible for its anomalous properties. In addition to alpha, beta, and gamma radiation, 59 specimens produce a previously unknown type of radiation, apparently unique to the object. Tentatively designated delta radiation. Delta radiation is accompanied by Cherenkov radiation, visible as a blue glow. Delta radiation is only partially contained by standard radiation shielding. The best results have been obtained using graded Z laminate shielding with an additional super dense metal layer. This reduces the effective range of delta radiation from approximately 20 meters to approximately 6. When an area is exposed to delta radiation for more than 15 minutes, an unknown species of fungus designated 59-1 begins to grow on any exposed surface. This fungus does not require any standard nutrition but will die within 24 hours of removal from a delta radiation source. 59-1 is itself radioactive but does not emit delta radiation. However, if a critical mass, approximately blank kilograms by meters cubed, of 59 is allowed to grow, delta radiation from an unknown source other than 59 will appear in the area, further supporting 59-1 growth. Interested readers may consult with Dr. Blank for his theories of space-time stress and merger of alternate realities. Within 18 hours, the infected mass will become transparent and disappear, presumably into the universe that is the source of delta radiation. The process then continues with 59-1 infecting new material. 59-1 will infect both living beings and inanimate objects. Humans and animals infected with 59-1 become immune to the effects of ionizing radiation, but progressively merge with 59-1 and eventually have all tissue replaced by fungal growth. While generally non-violent, they will attempt to expose unaffected individuals to 59. 59-1 infections do not appear to be directly contagious, but only spread by contact with delta radiation. However, long-term exposure to 59-1 has not been adequately tested to rule out, considering it is a biohazard, as well as a known radiation hazard. Infected individuals still capable of communication describe seeing a world entirely covered with 59-1, where much of the surface is composed of 59. It is unclear whether this is a hallucination or a view into the source of 59. Infectees are generally pleased with their condition and often refer to it to being in the blue light of heaven. 59-1 is affected by most fungicides, but new growth will continue as long as 59 is present. Early stage 59-1 infection in humans may be treated with griseofulvin. However, the treatment is 90% likely to lead to death by radiation poisoning. Treated individuals lose their immunity to radiation and will already have absorbed a now lethal dose prior to treatment. Late-stage treatment should not be attempted as too much tissue will already be converted to 59-1. Data expunged. The remains of failed treatment should be kept out of range of 59, otherwise data expunged. 59 specimens have been discovered in 8 different underground locations across a range of 5,000 kilometers. No pattern has emerged for their appearance. Specimens range from 1 to 10 kilograms in size and are not part of the normal rock formations in the areas where they have been found. Addendum. Dr. Blank has recorded and analyzed the patterns of radiation emitted by the contained 59-1 colony and believes that 59-1 may be sapient and attempting to communicate via controlled emissions of radiation. Initial attempts to analyze this language reveal data expunged. Okay. So, Infernal Occult Skeleton. Aha. Let's read about that, shall we? Cheater. That is a tree. That is not a... That is a tree. But let's find out. The grove, which contains 60, is currently contained in a series of specially constructed greenhouses at Satellite Site 6660. Specimens are to be pruned regularly to keep it a manageable size. Personnel are banned from smoking while within 5 kilometers of 6660. Personnel are to refrain from bringing lighters, matches, tasers, or any tool readily capable of starting a fire into 6660. 60 specimens are to be watered twice daily and checked weekly for dead plant matter and saplings. Dead matter and saplings are to be pruned, shredded, and composted properly in the dedicated facility on site, afterwards returned to 60's containment chamber. Fragments of 60 may not be moved off-site for any reason without explicit written permission from 2 or more level 4 personnel. In the event of a breach by 60 Alpha, I was distracted by that picture right there. Personnel are to enter lockdown mode and activate on-site fire suppression systems. Redundant on-site fire suppression systems have been installed throughout the site, including water and chemical retardants to be used in tandem in the event of a containment breach. Portable extinguishers are to be kept available at all times. Containment Chamber 60 Alpha 1 is a dedicated circular containment chamber designed to contain 60 Alpha during testing. This chamber is constructed of concrete with a 0.2 meter thick asbestos coating, with a series of chimneys to allow for ventilation of heat during containment. The walls are fitted with 24 steel tube projectors evenly spaced at 45-degree angles along the walls, and will activate in the presence of temperatures exceeding 200 degrees Celsius. 1 kilogram of 60 materials to be kept within Containment Chamber 60 Alpha 1 to be burned in the event of a breach. Description: 60 is a grove of 17 white oak trees, Kirkus alba. The grove is spread across approximately 8 acres in rural northeastern Minnesota. A house on the property was demolished during the construction of Satellite 6660 after being combed by Foundation personnel for information regarding 60. See addendum. When burned, 60 will produce an entity henceforth designated 60 Alpha. 60 Alpha appears to be an animate adult human skeleton, standing approximately 2.3 meters tall and surrounded by bright white flames. How tall is that? How tall is that? Feet. Okay, so that is a 7.5 foot tall flaming skeleton, and it goes to SCP-2263 for some reason. Make up your mind on how many SCPs you want to be, Bone Man. SCP-60 Alpha initially burns at a temperature of approximately 1500 degrees Celsius or 2730 Fahrenheit, and will attempt to cause as much damage as possible when active. Burning as little as 20 grams of SCP-60 will cause 60 Alpha to appear. Only one instance of 60 Alpha will appear at any time. It is theorized that 60 Alpha is a unique entity. Alpha is extremely dangerous, having proven to be both hostile and relatively intelligent. It appears to be a single recurring entity, showing a growing familiarity with Site 6660's layout over the course of several manifestations. When given the opportunity, it will throw itself bodily at flammable materials in an effort to cause damage, and assault personnel with a focus on grappling and strangulation. Additionally, it has proven capable of running at speeds of up to 80 kilometers per hour in short bursts and leaping approximately 5 meters from a running start. Due to the extreme temperatures produced by 60 Alpha during the initial stages of manifestation, along with its physical capabilities, it is capable of causing large uncontrolled fires and widespread property damage if left unchecked. Alpha appears to intentionally avoid burning instances of 60 when it becomes active. If 60 Alpha is introduced to a high enough volume of water or other flame-retardant material over a short amount of time, it will begin to weaken to the point that it will collapse into dust. Collapse will occur suddenly with little warning. Alpha will continue to pose a threat up until it collapses. the volume of suppressive material required to subdue 60 Alpha is markedly less than would be expected to quench a heat source of its intensity, with volumes of approximately 500 liters proving sufficient. Why does this article spell meters and liters with the E after the R? Because I'm pretty sure that's a British thing, and none of the other articles have done that. Anyway, areas burnt by 60 Alpha will begin to yield sampling instances of 60 over the following 4 to 6 weeks. Only one wave of sapling growth will follow any given containment breach. Said saplings are easily pulled and should be composted and supplied to 60's normal containment chambers. Additional information regarding 60. The property containing 60 contained a burned-out, secluded house upon Foundation acquisition. According to civilian sources, the house's previous owner was a Jonathan Corhill, who was reported to have been a somewhat solitary eccentric with a tendency towards bitterness and nihilism or whatever. Mr. Corhill was reported as a missing person in late 1996, several months after having suddenly cut off all ties with family members and friends. The last person to have had contact with Jonathan Corhill was his brother Christopher via a telephone call. According to his brother, Corhill had developed an interest in the study of Victorian-era occultism. Furthermore, he had reported that Jonathan Corhill had seemed normal up until the phone call, at which point he told Christopher never to contact him again. Later in the year, a mail carrier visited the home to deliver a notice of foreclosure, finding it instead as a burnt-out shell. Examination showed that the fire began in the living room in the general vicinity of the fireplace. It is now assumed that 60 Alpha manifested within the house while Corhill burnt 60 in the fireplace. Considering 60 Alpha's nature, why the house was not entirely destroyed during this alleged manifestation is as of yet unknown. No human remains were found within the structure. Jonathan Corhill's whereabouts and whether he is dead or alive are currently unknown. Okay then. So, for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to stop the episode here, and then in the next episode we'll start with auditory mind control, followed by quantum computer, the world's best toothbrush, and then we'll go from there. So, this has been Anachi Sasuke. Thank you guys for sticking around for this episode. I suppose this is the part where I say if you like this, give me a like and a subscribe, but you know, that's up to you. So, y'all have a great weekend, and I will see you next time. Later!